Hey, John Ty here, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Summit. Our guest today is a highly successful ebook publisher and author, an app entrepreneur, internet marketer, personal development coach, and business consultant. And through these ventures, he's generated millions of dollars of online sales and created ebook and app empires. And he's here today to talk to us about building a 5-figure a month Kindle business. Our guest today, Ty Cohen. Ty, welcome to the Self-Publishing Summit.
Hey, John, thank you for having me. I love that intro. I've got to take you around with me whenever I do an event.
my pleasure.
You make me sound so good. I love that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You've done a lot of stuff. You've done a lot of things. And I had the pleasure of meeting you when you came across to London. It must be going back a couple of years now, I think.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah. And you spoke in London, and we met at that event, which was nice. And so great to catch up with you again. Yeah, I've given that brief intro. You've done a lot of stuff, but start us off by telling us how you got into Kindle publishing in the first place.
Okay. Well, it's been quite a journey over the years. So I actually first got started, I'll tell you, about 10 years now. I got started with Amazon's Advantage program. Okay, I don't know. Are you familiar with their Advantage program?
No.
Okay. We still have that program around today, and the Advantage program is for authors and publishers who have physical books, and they want to get distribution through Amazon, right? So if you're watching right now and you've got some physical books and you want to get that distribution through Amazon, go in and Google their Advantage program. Now, here's the downside to the Advantage program. You have to ship the books out yourself. So we got to a point where we were shipping about 8,000 books, physical books, out a month. I mean, just doing really well with it and just kicking butt, selling books in all different genres, things like that. And I got invited to take part in what was the beta program for the Kindle Direct Publishing platform. And I was a little bit skeptical at first, and I said, you know what, let's do it. You know what I mean? All of the physical books that we had were digital at some point because we had the manuscripts in a Microsoft Word document format. So I said, if anything, it's going to take me a couple of hours to upload each one. At the time, the Kindle Direct Publishing platform, the platform was a little bit different. The control panel, the back end was different than what we see today. All right. It wasn't the smooth, polished back end that you see now. Ended up doing that, totally forgot about uploading those books. Looked at my account about 3 months later and saw that we actually made sales. Now, it wasn't a lot of sales. It was just a few sales here and there. But the light bulb went off. And I said to myself, this is the tester here, right? Anytime you put a product together, and you've probably seen this as well, and you get one sale, that's all you need is one sale.
Yeah, proof of concept.
And that's proof of concept right there. It's proof that there's a marketplace that's out there. And when I went in, now, let's go back. I had published the books, all right, in the middle of summer. 3 months later, I went in, logged into my account after forgetting about it, saw that we had made a few sales. That night, the ideas were just swirling in my head, and I was unable to sleep. I was like a kid ready to go to the candy store the next day, right? Because I'm seeing the possibilities here. And that's how I got started with Kindle publishing. I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to this stuff here.
I think that's really great. I love the fact that you were involved in the beta program. I mean, I only discovered Kindle Direct Publishing, it was mid-2012. And so when did the beta program start?
So that had to start maybe, we moved here, I'm from Connecticut, moved down to North Carolina 10 years ago. This is 2015, 2004, 2005. So that started about 5 years ago. So.
And that was, sorry, was that 5 years ago, did you say? You broke up a little bit here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, sometimes with these Hangouts, everybody can hear except, I can't hear. People listening can hear, but I can't hear. It just depends on the who's having the connection problems at any given moment. Anyway,
hey, okay, so that's working. If voice comes to worse, we've got to throw some sign language up. We'll make it work.
We will. So that's great. I love the fact that you've been in it from the very beginning. So, tell us a little bit more about the business. How does the business work? What is your business model?
Okay, great question. So I'm a little bit different than most of the guests that you may have had on. I've watched a few, and you've got some really great information. I've got to commend you on that. I love what you're doing here with people. And it's information that needs to be out there. So kudos to you for that. I come in from more of a publisher standpoint. Now, when I first got started with the Amazon Advantage program, we'll go back a little bit more. You know, my background was in the music industry at that time. So I had created a lot of products that were geared towards musicians, and more specifically for musicians that wanted to learn more about the business side of the industry, right?
Yeah.
How to control their contracts, how to go in and promote themselves, how to get marketing, how to approach record labels, how to create your own record label, things like that. So I went in, and there wasn't any resources out there at the time when I first started. I first got started, and I had a personal need, right? And I spent a lot of money, a lot of time trying to find these resources. Didn't see anything, so I said, you know what? I'm going to get with some of the top folks that are in the industry, and I'm going to create what is needed out there. And that's how a lot of good things start, right? There's a demand for something. You don't find a demand. You're not able to find it yourself. So you say, I'm going to go in and create it. Some of you that may be watching right now, there may be books that you would love to read, but they're not out there. So you said, you know what? I'm going to write the type of book that I would love to read as a reader. So that's how I got started, basically out of a need. And those were physical books at that time. We had a few courses as well. And I took those books, turned them into the digital versions, the Amazon Kindle versions, and did well with that. And then I said, okay, I'm not a writer, okay? I've never really been a great writer. As a matter of fact, I failed English 101, not once, but twice. So that tells you how much of a writer I am, right? But I saw the potential in being able to go in and leverage other people's time, all right? Be able to leverage the education, be able to leverage the resources and the information that other people have. And that's what it's about. So I said, I'm going to create a publishing company. I created Platinum Millennium Publishing and went in to hire writers that are great at what they're doing, that are great at researching, that are great at publishing content. And I think that's the key. When you're going to be successful at this, you need quality content. You need stuff that people are going, because listen, we don't want to think about the one-time sell. You want someone to come back for every single thing that you have. You want them to crave what you have. You want them to be able to say, listen, I know that this book is not going to be out for another 8 months, but I'm on the list. And you want them to be fighting over the position that they're on the list on. I'm number 2, baby. I'm number 3. Okay. So it's all about publishing quality content. So I went out, I found a couple of writers and continued to publish content. We publish a lot of nonfiction. So a lot of how-to, a lot of information that's geared towards enthusiasts, collectors, people that are just rabid and just really passionate about what it is that they love. Stamp collectors. Writers, right? Like the group that we're talking about, a very passionate group. So basically that's how I got involved on the publishing side of things. And I love it. I wouldn't turn back.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you talk about the publishing. First of all, I like the point you make about it's got to be quality content, because there's no point throwing stuff out there, whether it's something you've written or something you've commissioned and published. You know, if it's not good stuff, it's not going to endure. So you might as well put the extra effort in and create the good content. But
as a business, it isn't, right? Because it's a business.
Yeah, so exactly.
So
and it's a business. It's a business whether you're publishing other people's content or whether you're publishing your own content. I think that, you know, one of the, I mean, tell me if this chimes with you as well and your experience, Ty, but I think one of the ways in which a lot of writers let themselves down is they really don't want to get involved in the business marketing side of it. They don't enjoy that side, but it's unfortunately, I say unfortunately because if you don't like it, I happen to find that side of things fascinating, so I really enjoy it. But that marketing side of things and the business side of things is essential if you're going to be successful as a writer. So I think it's important to emphasize that. Yeah,
that's the part that I'm really passionate about. I love the research. I love the marketing side of things. I love, and I've got some cool marketing tips that I'd like to share too with you as we go along.
But, yeah, that would be great. Yeah,
I love that part of it. Just the psychology behind what gets someone to buy, the psychology behind what would they be interested in, and how much are they willing to pay for this, right? And you know, how do you really draw them into the story? So with my writers, we have meetings twice a week, and you know, these are folks that are more artistic than I am, and I envy them because they're great at it. Right? I wish I had that skill. And I know that they get tired of hearing about me talking about make it juicy. Make sure that it's good stuff. Make sure that you're talking directly to them. You know what I mean? Make sure that you're giving them content that at the end they're going to want more. It's like watching a good movie. Have you ever walked out of a movie theater, right? And at the end you're like, man, the movie was 3.5 hours long, but I want more. Like, really, when are you coming? You know, so
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and if you've got that kind of good content on a Kindle book, especially if the book is part of some sort of series, that's perfect, isn't it? Because then people can get to the end of the book, see the link to the next book in the series, and make that impulse purchase and carry on reading straight away. So it's that instant gratification, which is becoming more and more a part of our daily digital lives. So, you know, definitely something to take advantage of.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's part of it right there. Is creating juicy content in the hopes that people will want more, to the point where you can create a series based off of that. You know, and you can do that with both fiction and nonfiction. We have volumes of nonfiction stuff as well as the fiction stuff as well. So we've got romance titles and we've got fantasy sci-fi titles that, you know, continue on. And we do a lot of sports as well. So absolutely, spot on.
Yeah. And I mean, something this has come up in a couple of other presentations, but fiction outsells nonfiction by a huge margin on Amazon, or just generally, really. But one point that I make to people is that it really doesn't matter which market you're in, fiction or sort of nonfiction, because they're both huge markets, even though the fiction market is a lot bigger. So you can have a tremendous success as an author stroke publisher, whichever you choose. But yeah, although I don't personally write in fiction, it's a huge market. And typically you look at the top 100 books on Amazon, 95 of them are going to be fiction at any one time, and half of those are going to be some sort of romance or romance subgenre.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I find that nonfiction. So you're more of a nonfiction guy. You do a lot of stuff like what? So just to give you a breakdown, about 70% of our content is nonfiction, and I'll tell you why. I went into fiction, and it's because of my marketing background. It's easier for me, and I don't want to deter anyone if you're a fiction writer, right? Because, like as John said, fiction really runs circles around nonfiction as far as just generically selling, organically selling, right? But with nonfiction, it's easier for me to go in and target using AdWords, Facebook. I mean, specialty online websites, specialty magazines, and a lot of things that we'll talk about as well. And then with the fiction stuff, it's easier to go in and tie into what's already popular, what's doing well. Okay, I'm going to create something that's similar to this. So, but the thing is writing material that ties in with your core values. We were speaking about this before. You know, I don't do a lot of speaking from the stage because it's not something that resonates with my core values. You know, I'd rather be behind the scenes, behind the computer, pumping Kindle books or pumping out physical books and things like that. So,
yeah. So I definitely want to get into, you know, the marketing. You mentioned that, and I think it'd be really interesting to hear some of your thoughts on that. But before we do, just tell us a little bit about the scale of your business. It's something we were touching on before, but sort of I want to get people excited about, and also just to open people's minds up to the possibilities, because I think it's fascinating. First of all, you know, how many books you're creating on a monthly basis, and you know how that's doing in terms of revenue. So tell us a little bit about that before we get into the marketing stuff.
Okay. So, and this goes back to what we were talking about before. I've got a grin on my face because I wasn't always at this point where we're publishing just a massive amount of volume. So we're doing about 100 books now on average, all right, a month. And up until, and that started about 1.5 years ago, okay, about 18 months ago. And it wasn't until I read Grant Cardone's 10X, what's the title? 10X Factor. We were talking about this earlier, right? Yeah. And I said to I had a buddy of mine who put the bug in my ear at first. He said, Ty, you're doing extremely well with this. You know, it's doing about 25,000 a month, Amazon's Kindle. And he said, you know what, you're doing okay with it, but you're getting complacent. All right, you're getting relaxed. And I said to myself, I said, heck, I am getting relaxed. I'm getting really relaxed here. And then I listened to Grant Cardone's 10X audio ebook, right? And I said, I need to turn this up. So I set a goal of publishing 200 titles a month. Didn't hit that.
Wow.
Right? But got to a point where we're doing about 90 to 100 a month now. And it was just all about scaling up. So when I first started, we had 3 different writers, went in and hired more writers, just using a lot of freelance sites like Odesk and Guru. I tend to gravitate towards Odesk a lot easier because it's a lot more because it's easier for me to just be able to communicate with my authors and my writers and then go in and pay them for my mobile device versus Guru, where you've got to go in and you've logged in and you've got to enter your credit card details each time you have to one.
Yeah, I'm an Odesk fan as well.
What's that?
I said I'm an Odesk fan as well. I like Odesk.
Yeah, it's just the simplicity, baby. I love that. You know, just been making it easier. So that's where we went with that. And then I said, okay, who else do I need on my team? At that point, I was doing all the research, right? Because it was just the entrepreneurial mindset of no one can do this as well as I could do it. So I'm doing all the research, writing all of the titles, writing the descriptions, not trusting that to anyone else because, you know, with the titles and the descriptions, and even some of the blurbs that are put on the actual cover itself, right? It's all a part of marketing, and that's what I love, and I didn't want to trust that part of my business to anyone else. So it wasn't until I said, let me go in, hire more writers, then hire people that are great researchers, that are great at marketing, that are great at copywriting, you know, and just let them loose. And I hired a project manager who lives about an hour and a half from me, although I've never seen her. We've never personally met. She lives an hour and a half from me. Trained her on a lot of this stuff, and we were up and running.
Cool. So, I mean, wow. So, because I think when we met in person, so going back a couple of years now, I think at that time I might be wrong about this, but I have a feeling you had published around 200 books at that point in time.
Yes. Yep.
So now you're publishing 100 a month, and I guess on course to do even more than that, which is incredible. Yeah. And you mentioned you were doing around 25K a month, and that was in royalties, yeah?
Yes, that's in royalties, right?
That's in royalties, yes, as opposed to back end sales, because we've had a number of guests talking about the back end stuff as well. And
that's a big part of the back end as well. And we'll talk about that soon. So
yeah, and do you mind me asking, you know, how that's doing now that you've done that Grant Cardone 10x thing and you've scaled it up and you're doing nearly 100 a month? How's that working out in terms of the royalties?
So now here, my goal was to hit 100,000 a month, and I've got a buddy of mine, Antoine, and he's always on me. Ty, have you hit your 100,000 a month yet? I have not hit that yet. We're doing about 45 to 50 a month, depending on a regular month. When, of course, when it's seasonal, I'm talking about October, November, December, January. You know, that shoots up big time. Now here's the thing: we also lowered price points. All right, when I first got started, the higher price points were, I mean, it was easier to sell. Right, less competition, so it's easier to sell an ebook at $5.99, $6.99, $7.99, even $9.99. It was a sweet price point, and that's where I had a lot of my titles at. So it took less volume. Now we're selling more at $2.99 to $3.99. Right? Yeah, and that's where it's at. So
yeah, and I think that's pretty universal, isn't it? That $2.99 is for almost. I always recommend to people to test the pricing, because it will make, it does vary from book to book, but typically $2.99, that's the point at which you hit the 70% royalty bracket, which is, great, but it's still a low enough price that you get, I mean, the Kindle books are very price elastic, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. So as the price goes up, the sales drop off. And so usually $2.99 is going to be the sweet spot, but definitely if you're listening to this, you do want to test. So, I mean, that's great. And, I don't know if you want to go from this into the marketing side, or you mentioned the back end side of the business, whichever you'd like to talk about.
So we'll go with the marketing side first, because I think that supersedes everything else. So with marketing end, again, we're going into nonfiction, and you can do this with fiction. It's a little bit the approach though, right? With fiction, you can use Facebook. I mean, it's easier to use Facebook ads when you're targeting someone that is a romance lover, right? Romance book lover, someone who likes thrillers or mysteries or murder mysteries, right? So it's easier to get that. But for me, nonfiction, again, the reason why I'm so passionate about it and why I love it is because it allows me to take my marketing skill and go in and just hit people who are searching Google, right? Or how do I go in and stain a deck? Or how do I, repair a Toyota Corolla? Or what are some of the best wines out there to collect? Or how do I get invested in real estate? So things like that. And the same thing with Facebook. It's easier to go in and target those groups And you can target individual Facebook users by interest, right? The things that they like, that they're interested in. So Facebook makes it very easy. I'm sure you've had some people talk about that as well. The other thing that we do is, and I don't see a lot of people doing this, and that is target specialty online and offline publications. All right, so I come from a direct marketing background where I used to run a lot of ads in print media. So offline magazines, weekly publications, newsletters, and things like that. Here in the US, we have a lot of free weekly print publications. Okay, you can find them on the corner in any metropolitan downtown area, right? I mean, and those things are a gold mine to go in and advertise your books for. Yeah. And the thing is, so the market for those free publications, and you have to know, when we're talking about marketing, the biggest thing to know is who's your ideal buyer. What are they? All right, what's their sex? Are they male or female? What's their age range? I mean, even things like, do they have children or not? Where are their children right now in their life? And by that, I mean, at what position? Are they younger? So are they spending a lot of their time driving their children back and forth to school, shuffling them to activities, cheerleading, dance, basketball, things like that? Or are they older? Are their children off at college or out of the house, and they have more time now to read, you know, more time to spend doing the things that they love doing, vacationing, getting involved with hobbies, right? So that, again, that's why nonfiction does well for me, because we target a lot of the older demographic, people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, that now have, number one, more money to spend, right? More leisurely money to spend. And number two, they've got more time to enjoy to themselves because they've taken care of their families already. So those folks now saying, I've invested a lot of time in my family. I now need to give back to myself and do something. What hobby can I go in and get involved with, right? And they become very passionate. So we find out if they buy one title, there's a good chance that they're going to buy another title and another title, as long as that first title resonates with them. That's why it's, and going back to quality content, right? And dangling them in a good way to a point where they want to read what else you have out there. So with marketing, you want to know who your ideal reader is, right? There's a good chance that the person that loves romance titles may also love murder mystery titles. You have to know that, because if you know that, now you can target them in both ways. You can also go in and differentiate yourself by advertising your romance title in a murder mystery Facebook group. Okay, because no one else is doing that. No one else is thinking about it, right? Because they're saying that it doesn't work, it doesn't fit. Those folks, they only want murder mysteries. But once you know who your ideal buyer is, you can, and Facebook gives you a lot of that information as well. The other way to get this information is simple surveys. I've been using surveys for 10 years now, and I will never release a title or a book or a course or do anything without first surveying people. And if you don't have, so what I'll do is I'll survey our in-house list. Now, I know a lot of folks that are watching, you may not have a list yet, but the easier way to go in and run surveys, and if you're part of any writers group, I'm sure you've seen a survey before. That's our survey. Okay, we'll go in and we'll ask folks, what do you most need help with? That's how we'll capture it. We'll caption it. All right. Are you a writer? Question mark. What do you most need help with? Who is not going to gravitate towards that? Who's not going to click on that link and say, okay, this is what I really need here. I need someone who's offering me help. And then you say, let me help you out by completing. If you fill out this survey here, it'll allow me to better help you out. What are you most interested in writing, or what are you most interested in reading? Okay. Whatever titles. And here's where it gets to the point of cross-marketing. Whatever genres do you love reading in order? All right. What's your preference? All right. 1 to 3. I love romance, number 1. Murder mysteries, number 2. Thrillers, number 3. All right. So now you've got this data, and you can use a simple software or a CRM platform like Infusionsoft to gather all of this information as well. So surveys are big. The other thing is, you know what, I want to stay on surveys for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Even when it comes to titles. So one of the things is I let the audience choose the title, and I let the audience choose the cover. And I learned that by losing a lot of money by assuming that I knew what my audience wanted. I mean, I said, this title is amazing. The cover is fantastic. And I made a mistake that a lot of us make, both entrepreneurs as well as writers, is I fell in love with my product. I fell in love with the cover and I fell in love with the title, and it actually fell flat. It didn't do anything near what I wanted it to do. So that was the biggest mistake that I've made there when it comes to assuming what my reader wanted. So I use surveys now. I'll go in and I'll come up with 4 or 5 titles, right? Or one of my folks that are on my team, they'll come up with 4 or 5 titles, and we'll have our graphic designer come up with 4 or 5 covers. The first thing that we'll put out there is the title. We'll survey them, and there's a service called 1 Minute Poll that you can do this with. 1minute.com. Okay, so check that out. And actually, there's actually a free version of it, so you can even go in and sign up for their free version. A lot of this stuff doesn't cost money. So I know a lot of folks are bootstrapping, right? So it doesn't cost money, even with your covers. So with 1 Minute Poll, the first thing we'll do is at the very top, we'll say, okay, we're coming up with our newest romance novel or our newest novel on how to self-publish your book, right? Here's the titles that we are considering. Which one do you think works best? And people love completing surveys, especially when you're asking for their input, because everyone has input, right?
Yeah.
So, and everyone's an expert, right? Especially on something that they love. Now, below that, the next question that we ask them is, which cover do you think would work best? And then we give them 4 different cover choices. Now, you're probably wondering right now, if you're watching this, Ty, that's going to cost a ton of money for me to go in and get 4 different cover mockups. It's not. I use something like Fiverr.com, right? You go in and have those initial test covers created. The initial test covers. So it's costing $20. And you can even negotiate with someone. Sometimes there's graphic designers on there that you can negotiate with, and you'll say, hey, I need 4 or 5 covers. Can you do it for $15? Never be afraid of negotiating. That's the other big thing. Never be afraid of negotiation, because the person that's on the other end, they have no clue as to what they should charge. And they're just as nervous about charging as you are about asking, how much are they going to charge for this. So that's a good thing as well. That is just a ton of money there. So go and have 4 or 5 different mock-up covers. You can start with 2 or 3, right? It doesn't have to be 5, but at least do more than 1, because I guarantee you 50% of the time you're going to be wrong on that title and on that cover, right? So poll your audience there. And then, sometimes, depending on the mood I'm in, I'll really turn into a madman, and I'll even split test like the cover colors. So once we have a title and we've got the images that are used on the cover, right, we'll go in and we might switch it out and test colors, right? A red color versus a blue color versus a yellow color. Now, what I found is I like to gravitate towards the lighter colors. So similar to the background that you have right there, that's perfect, right? So white and the blue, white and red works very well. White and black doesn't work as well in my test that I found, but white and blue, white and teal, white and red, because they're nice, clean, bright colors. Unless you're doing something that is a little bit darker, then it makes sense, right? If I'm putting a gardening title out, then I would go with something like a white and a lighter shade of green, because it all right, on the psychological,
so it's congruent with the subject.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I like the point you make about, and I want to just kind of drill this home for people, because you make the point that what you think is the best title or cover isn't necessarily going to be the one that actually works best. And I've had exactly the same thing. And I've done quite a bit of Facebook ad testing for covers now.
That's good, yeah.
The great thing about Facebook ads is you can use images. The downside is that you can only, no more than 20% of that can be text, so that could be an issue sometimes. But, I remember testing. I did the same thing, got covers done on Fiverr. I had 5 covers. The one that I thought, that's the one I like, that's the one I was going to use. I thought, no, I better test it first. And it actually came 4th out of 5. And the one that I ended up using, tested, it was 279% better than the one I was thinking of using. So almost 3 times as many people were clicking on that image to go through to the ad. But I would never have known that if I hadn't have tested that. So whether you test,
right at that point, it becomes fun just trying to figure out, okay, I know that they're gonna pick this one. As long as I've been doing it, I'm most of the times I'm wrong. So test it see how fun it becomes.
Yeah, and I suppose the thing is, there's within that section of people, there's going to be a certain number of people who would agree with you. But if the majority is going for something else, then that's, as a marketer, that's what you want to go with.
Aside, right?
Sorry?
I said you push the ego aside.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Good. So okay, so that's so we talked about the testing side. What else on the marketing front? I know we probably haven't got time to go into everything here, but what are some other big things that you'd mention?
So here's another big thing, right? And we talked a bit about this before the show, and that is one of the things that I found is there are a ton of specialty newsletters that are out there, e-newsletters, all right? So there's folks that have websites that are about everything under the sun. I mean, everything under the sun. How to repair a speaker, how to repair a cell phone, how to be a better motorcycle rider, you know, how to create a document in Microsoft Word, right? How to change a tire or how to repair automobiles. So there's websites that are geared towards almost every single topic that are out there, and including, all right, fiction topics. Right? Think about it. The sites are, and a lot of these sites have newsletters, right? And they have newsletters that go out to their audience, whether that audience is 5,000 people or 200,000 people. They have newsletters that go out to their audience every week, every month, every 2 weeks. And they also sell advertising placement in those newsletters. I found a couple yesterday that were charging $30 to get in front of 10,000 people. They have a list of 10,000 people. And it tickles me to death sometimes because I'm like, man, it's just insane, right? I want to tell them, listen, I'll give you $200 for that spot, right?
Yeah.
Really, so bad because
did you? No, we're back to that negotiation thing.
Yeah, it goes back to that negotiation. Hey, the first person who speaks loses in most cases, right? Sometimes, depending on the concept, but that's a whole nother topic, right? But so there's just a ton of newsletters, and the way you find these is go on Google, right? Type in your topic. So it might be. So over the weekend, I was looking for quoting newsletters. So I go on Google, I type in quoting and newsletter, quoting and e-newsletter, all one word, e-newsletter, or quoting and weekly newsletter or something like that, or subscription, quoting and subscription. And you'll be amazed at how many different spots come up that have newsletters that you can go in and advertise in. We talked about one before the show, and that publication has 175,000 subscribers on their mailing list. Now they segment their mailing list. Okay, they charge $400 to get in front of 175,000 people, and when you break that down, the numbers are sick. I mean, it's insane. Okay, so this is another way that you can go in and instantly position yourself in front of people. It's whether you want to do it for branding purposes, whether you want to do it for sales. Every time I do it, my first intention is to, number one, get people added onto my list, okay? Because we've got other products that we can sell them no matter what genre it might be. And then number two, to make that sell. And what you'll see is, you'll see that if you have things set up the right way, your funnel, and we can talk about funnels as well, if you have your funnel set up the right way, as soon as they opt in, they should be seeing something that's made available for sale. That should be your book. All right, so as soon as they opt in, show them your book. And when you show it to them, whether it's on your Amazon page or whether it's on your website page, give them an incredible amount of detail. I think one of the biggest mistakes that writers make is that they don't talk about, they're a very humble group, right? And we don't talk about our book enough. All right, most writers have an obscurity problem, and that is enough people don't know about your book.
We're coming back to that issue they have with marketing and sales. And I just want to jump in for a second, Ty, just to clarify something, particularly if you're listening to this and you're thinking about, okay, well, this sounds like a great idea, getting in front of lots of people. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ty, but typically if you're doing something like this, advertising, you don't want to be asking for too many things at once. So my guess is that your adverts are asking or offering something and basically in exchange for the email to get people on the list. So that's stage one. Is that right?
That's correct. Now,
and then stage two would be to present them with that offer. Once they've opted in, they go to a page where they get a chance to check out your book or whatever it may be that you want to sell to them in the first instance, and go from there. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that. And what sort of things, I suppose, obviously it varies depending on the target market, but typically what sort of things would you offer people to get them to opt in the first place?
So let's step back for a moment, because that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Beautiful question. So on our opt-in forms, what I found is it depends on the audience, right? As far as the number of fields that you have. There's some audiences that if you just ask them for their email address, then you'll see higher conversion rates. And your conversion rates are the number of people that visit your site versus the number that actually sign up for your newsletter or opt in or enter their email address. So I found that with some groups, if you just ask for their email address, it'll bump that conversion rate up. But then there's some that you can ask for at least 3 or 4 different things, right? Right? Going back to that Facebook example. Because they want to find information that's going to help them get to the next level, they are a bit more willing to give you more information as long as the information fits. So I'll ask them for their first name, and we've tested this, and I've seen with the conversion rates, there's only like a 2 or 3% difference. Okay, away. So I'll ask them, what's their name? What's their email address? What do you most need help with? I'm sorry, let me go in this order. And this is from one of the actual opt-in forms. What's your name? What's your email address? What genre do you write in or publish in? What do you most need help with? And have you published a book yet? You know, so they're willing to give you everything. Okay. So you have, and it goes back again to knowing your audience. Okay, when you do that type of stuff. Now, the second question was, what do you get? Did you want to jump in really quickly?
No, I was just rubbing my face.
The second question is, what do you give them in exchange for that information? Now, again, when it comes to writers using that example, okay, it's the way we position it is we're putting together a resource that will help you to get to the next level. And by you providing us with this information, it will better allow us to have some input to create that resource. All right. And that's legitimate right there, right? Because we're actually working on that. And when you actually do stuff, don't go in and actually mislead people and ask for information. No. You're doing something that it's not. So that's bad. That's a bad writer. The way that you can go in and offer them something is it could be a snippet of your book. You know, something that I've seen someone else do, this is not us, but I've seen someone do this, and this works very well, is they provided an audio version of the first chapter of their book, which I thought was pretty cool right there. I thought that was pretty different. I have to actually test that. The other thing is you can give them a discount on your book, all right? But that only works if you give them a lot of information, if you pre-frame it on that opt-in page. So you're using that opt-in page as a sales letter where you're talking about the book, what's involved, what it can help them with, and this works with nonfiction primarily, right? What they accomplish, how they will they be a better person after reading this book, right? If you're publishing a personal development title, you know, here's what you'll accomplish, right? Yeah. Then we're going to give you a 30% discount, 40%. Make it massive. I mean, make it stick out, because the lifetime value of that reader is so much more than what you're getting on that initial sell. So give them a freaking 70% discount. That's what you would get if you were selling it directly through Amazon anyway, you know? So I found that approach works, especially in nonfiction. With fiction, giving them a title, giving them a first chapter, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, don't be stingy with it. It's another thing that I found that after consulting just hundreds and hundreds of different writers, I find that, and this is very natural, it's part of being human. So I'm saying it in the right way, that we get very attached to our product and we don't want to give it away for free. We say, I don't want to give it.
It's human nature, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong, especially if you're thinking long term. Never think this is my only book. So there's nothing wrong with giving away 50%, 60%, 70% of your book. There's nothing wrong with giving them 50, 60, 70% off of the title of your book. It just works wonders, because you getting that data from someone that loves the type of information that you're writing about is more valuable than the amount of that initial sell.
Yeah. And I think just to jump in with a key point here is that anybody who goes through all of those steps, particularly if you've found them through some sort of newsletter, they're reading that in the first place, they respond to your ad, they check out your copy on your landing page, they put in their details. They've gone through so many steps to get to that point that they're clearly highly qualified, very interested in that stuff. So as you say, think long-term and lifetime customer value, because assuming you're not just a one-hit wonder and you're going to have more than one book, or you have a back-end product or service that relates to that book, if it's, say, a how-to or personal development type book, there's tremendous value in just acquiring that initial lead, even if it's for free, as it were.
That's a great point. I just helped a client of mine work on her marketing strategies. And as we were going through the coaching session, we talked about, so her book deals with essential oils, right? So natural healing oils and things like that. And I said, this was a couple of months ago, and just to see her come full circle is just, I just love it, right? So at the time I'm telling her, I said, there's so much that you can do with this type of a topic. I said, you're writing the ebook, but it just doesn't stop there. You're writing the physical book, it doesn't stop there. There's so many people that would be interested in learning about essential oils and how they can use them to overcome different ailments, right? But then the next question comes, okay, well, what you have to always think about what's the next question that's happening in your reader's mind. So after they're reading a book like this, they're asking themselves, where can I get some of these oils? Well, who better to suggest where they should get them than you as the author, right? I mean, it makes sense. And then you tie that into your affiliate link if you haven't, and we can explain what an affiliate link is if needed. Or you tie it into your own product. I mean, there's a lot of ways to white label different things. You can go in and white label an essential oil, right? Then you turn that, if you really want to talk about it getting big, you can turn that into a health and wellness workshop. We have live workshops. You turn that into a health and wellness coaching session where you offer either one-on-one coaching or one-to-many coaching, where you're doing coaching to many people at one time in this particular format, where it could be a Google Hangout, or it could be something like a webinar session, or you can just jump on the phone, or a Skype session with people. So there's so many ways to do this, and you have to think long-term with a lot of this stuff, if that's the direction that you want to go in. It's very fun.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because, obviously that's not going to be for everybody, but if you're listening to this and you've got some sort of expertise, really be thinking about what can you be doing on the back end to build the business, because a book is a fantastic way to do it. It's a great positioning tool, but as Ty said, if somebody reads your book and they're going to get to know, like, and trust you, they perceive you as the author of that book, you're perceived as the expert. And so if you recommend something, there's a good chance people will go through and buy the essential oils or whatever it may be. Now, if you're doing affiliate stuff, obviously you need to make it clear. There's FTC guidelines and things like that you have to make it clear that it's an affiliate link and so on. But there's tremendous potential there to either sell somebody else's product, to white label, to develop your own business on the back end. And I mean, I know perhaps that's something we'd touch on briefly before we finish. I mean, I know there's a back end to your business in terms of helping people to get published.
Right.
Yeah. So, very, very powerful. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking at the clock, and I'm just thinking, any other big elements on the marketing side? I mean, you've given us a couple of really great ones. I love that, to be able to get in front of 100,000 plus people for $400 is crazy.
It's not even larger than that. Like in the quoting niche, right? The quoting niche. I'm looking at some of these publications, and I'm going over their rate card, which is the demographic card, the information sheet that talks about who their audience is and who their reader is most likely to be. And I'm checking it off. I'm like, okay, they're female, check. I mean, they've got 250,000 people on their list, check. And this is for McCall's quoting. If anyone is in a quoting niche and you want to go up to him, we'll have some friendly competition. So go in and check out their rate card, right? And, the age, it's, 50 to 65, check, they're in the US. I mean, so I'm just like, it becomes a huge game, and you just have a ton of fun with that. I know we have to close up, but really shortly, I've got a few other things, if you don't mind.
Please. Yeah. We don't have to, there's no like hard and fast time. I just don't want to keep you going, to be respectful of your time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things, I want to take it back to the Kindle publishing side of things, right? One of the things that we do is with the Kindle publishing, that's where it starts. That's the starting point. It's creating this digital version, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to be totally clear. What we're publishing are not 100, 200-page manuscripts. That's not the direction that we go. Right? Everything that we publish is less than 75 pages. Right.
Right.
Actually, to be honest with you, the average size is about 50 to 60 pages, depending on the topic.
And in words, what is that working out as?
That's about 500 words a page. So 450 to 500 words a page, and then you just multiply that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that,
35,000 words, something like that, I think.
Yeah. I always go by page because that's how I publish. I pay my writers. So it's based off of the number of pages that you write. I found that if you're talking about words, it can get very tricky because then, that becomes a whole nother dynamic, right? Then they stress it out, and then there's a lot of fluff, and it's not as meaty as it could be. It's so
that's I suppose you got to worry about those perverse incentives, haven't you?
Exactly. So that becomes a whole nother conversation. There's so many of these little things that I've learned over the years that I can talk about here that can save you a lot of money, that can help you to create really dynamic content that's just incredible. And so you got to be careful with providers. I'm going to pay you by word. Okay.
Yeah.
So going back here on a serious note, is we start at the most basic form, and that is to publish the Kindle book. All right. Let that run for a period of time to see what's going to sell, what has a demand out there. Once we find that there's a demand, that it's selling, I then go in and take that Kindle book, right? And then I go to the next easiest step. So it's all about gradually increasing, but taking the easy, low cost, steps. So the next thing that's easier for me to do is to have that book translated into other languages. I get that done for about 100, 125 bucks, okay? And I start with Spanish because Spanish is the largest language out there outside of English, right?
Yeah.
So I want to go hit the second largest marketplace. Now, that's not expensive to do, 100, 150 bucks. I use Odesk, or you can use Guru, GURU.com. I prefer Odesk. I think we both do. And then the next step after that, would be to go in and create a print version of it. Okay, you can go, if now, and this is I only do this, just to be totally clear, with my ebooks that are selling well, that do well as far as sales, because now I know that not everyone likes to read, right? In that format, not everyone likes to read in the Kindle format. I make a ton of money publishing Kindle books, but I do not like reading Kindle books unless I'm on an airplane or I'm sitting in a conference room waiting to meet up with someone, right? So that's the only time when I'll whip out my iPhone and I'll flip through a book, but I've never read a Kindle book cover to cover from a digital device. I'm a physical book guy. As a matter of fact,
old school.
Old school. You know, I like to be able to go in and mark them up and make notes and highlight and dog ear and like that, right? So that's the other thing. And then I don't read Spanish, right? But the Spanish market that's out there, that I mean, they're underserved. People are not providing them with the content that they want. So it's easy. It gives you a huge advantage, right? And then the next step after that is turning them into an audio book and then using something like Audible, which is extremely inexpensive as well. You can get that done for a couple of $100. All right. Yeah. So I do that in that series right there. So Kindle book first, because it's very inexpensive. The next inexpensive and easy step, right, that's less time consuming than anything else, is to have it converted into another language, starting with Spanish, right? And then we go into French and German and things like that. And then after that, you go in and you have it printed into a physical print format. And then after that, you go in, because turning it into a physical print format, that's easy as well, right? You go in, you the guidelines that are given to you, the formatting and everything else. You've got the manuscript already, right? And you can
outsource that formatting as well to somebody on a desk.
Outsourced here. The only thing that's not outsourced is the idea, the creation. All right. Because I have some folks that come up that do research as well. And then after that is the audio version of it. And then we talked about some things where, you know, I'm now thinking, I haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking about taking some of these books and turning them into paid podcasts. So there's different services where you can create paid podcasts, and you know, just creating a monthly subscription service. You know, every month they get 2 or 3 new titles in the audiobook format. configure it as a podcast that instantly gets delivered to their device. And as they're driving to work or picking the kids up, they now have something new that they can listen to entertain them. So it's always what's next here.
And so, I mean, that's really just another way of delivering that content, isn't it? You know, and somebody who's going to be listening to a podcast is the sort of person who's going to be interested in listening to ebooks and vice versa, because that's they're clearly somebody who likes consuming audio content.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how that works out. But it makes total sense.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. So good. I love that. Test with the Kindle stuff, and then if it works, roll it out to the other platforms and multi-purpose that piece of content. And just out of interest, you mentioned the Spanish market, and of course you've got a lot of Spanish speakers in the US. You've got there's the Amazon Mexico, and there's Amazon Spain as well. So I mean, there's 3 big Spanish sites there. You've got Germans, French, so on. How is that? I mean, how are those markets developing in terms of size, and what percentage of the income is coming from those markets?
So we see about 12% of our income from
significant
only. When it comes to German and French markets and some of the other markets, it's in the low single digits. So it's not where I want it to be. But think about it; it's not income that you would otherwise have been bringing in, right?
Yeah.
So 2%. I'll take the 1.7%, anything like that, because it's income. And the other way that I look at it is we do this work one time to continuously generate revenue, right? So I'll pay a translator $175 or $200, whatever, that one time to generate revenue forever.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Good. So lots of great stuff there. Anything else before we start wrapping things up? Anything else you want to mention in terms of the marketing side of the books?
Marketing side, I think we've covered a lot there. One of the things, here's something that I've never shared on any webinar or from the stage or from any hangout. And something that
sounds good.
Something that works well. We've got to keep it here, right? But something that works really well is just using. I call it the hook method, right? And that is, Amazon has that preview section where you can go in and preview the first couple of pages of a book.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I tell people and we tell our writers to do this as well, is those first couple of pages have to be extremely juicy, right? That's why we call it the hook method. It has to hook your reader in. And you can do this with both nonfiction and fiction. It has to be the stuff that do not just go in and throw anything in those first couple of pages, because it's so crucial. You wouldn't imagine how many people are actually going in and previewing your book before they buy. All right.
Yeah.
Think about that. How many people are previewing my book before they buy? If you're getting a 1% conversion rate, okay, let's say at 1%. I don't know. Amazon keeps these numbers very secretive, right? They keep them close. We don't know what the conversion rates are at. But in standard marketing practices, 1% is okay for a web page, right? So let's say 1% would be 100 people that went in and previewed your book. Out of 100, 1 would buy. Okay, that's a lot of eyeballs on your book. Now, the other thing that we've done outside of that hook method, and it deals with this whole preview section, is to include a link in there. And that is the way you phrase this link is, thank you for buying this ebook. Here's a link to ... whatever bonus you want to give them. Here's a link to a couple of chapters in the audiobook format. Here's a link to the first 3 chapters of the next version or the second volume of this book. And what I found that does is when you preface it that way and you title it that way, thank you for buying this book. Here's a bonus link. Everyone that goes in and previews that book, they are going to check out that link because they think they're getting over on you. They think that link is only for people that buy the book, and they're not supposed to see it. They think you screwed up. But when you intentionally put it in those first few preview pages, you now are able to direct people to any page you want them to, whether that's going to be a preview page for your next book, whether it's going to be an opt-in form, whether it's going to be a sales letter, whether it's going to be your YouTube channel. And every single author that's watching this should have a YouTube channel, because that's another channel of visibility. You should have a Twitter account. You should have a Facebook page. You should have your personal Facebook page that you invite people to. You should have 2. One for your your family and friends, and then one for you, the author, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and that's I love that that link thing. I'd be interested to hear if you've got any stats on this. I remember when I had a link set up like that for Crush It with Kindle, and it went to a page, and I was able to track from the analytics, which showed me, because you can't really track directly through Amazon, but you can track which websites people come through. And what I could see was that 15% of the people coming through via that link had come from Amazon. In other words, they'd done what you said. They'd gone, looked inside the book, click the link, and come through. And so my Google Analytics gave me that, and then the other 85% had presumably bought the book and clicked through, having bought the book. But 50% that's almost 1 in 6. That's a really significant number of people coming through, which is essentially free traffic from Amazon. But it's still okay. They're not necessarily buyers, but it's still very targeted. So it's powerful stuff.
They're interested in that topic, right? Because again, they took, you have to think about the process, right? Think about the process that person took to get to that point. They went on Amazon. They had to type in something to bring up your book, right? They clicked onto the title of your book or the image that brought them to that page. They clicked on preview, right? Then they went in and they read down to the point where your link was at, presuming that you didn't have it on the very first page. But they read down to that point. So that took a lot of steps there, right? So that's someone that's highly engaged, that's someone that's highly targeted, and they want information on what it is that specific book spoke about, right? So again, it goes back to taking the 2%, the 12%, the 11% of the Spanish readers that actually go in and buy the Spanish version of our book, and saying, hey, there's 15 people that are coming and clicking on this link and opting into my form or whatever it may be. Out of 100, I'll take that, right? Because if you're running Google AdWords or if you're running Facebook ads, what would that cost you? It would cost you probably $1, or if you're lucky, $1.
Yeah, easily.
Visitor opt in, $2, $3. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I look at it, so if
Definitely.
20 opt-ins, I'm looking at it as each of those opt-ins could have cost me $3, $4, $5. So that's $100 right there. That's $60. That's $80. So yeah, that's it.
And as you scale that, and obviously if you're getting a lot of books out on a regular basis, those numbers start to add up over your portfolio of books. So great stuff there, Ty. Before we finish up, tell us a little bit about, you've got courses on this sort of stuff. Tell us about that, and tell us how people can follow up with you if they want to find out more.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 ways. I would love you to follow me on Facebook and to ask me any questions that you have. I'm at Cohen Ty, so it's COHENTY on Facebook. And if you're interested in publishing Kindle books, if you're interested in taking your Kindle publishing to the next level, you can check out a course that I have. It's called Kindle Cash Flow. That's Kindle, KINDLE, CASHFLOW, cashflow.com. Visit the site. You'll find a couple of videos that are there. You'll find great information. And then if you're interested, you can go in and the course is actually a physical course. So it's a physical DVD set and booklet set. You get 3 booklets as well. And we talk about everything. We talk about how to publish Kindle books if you're a beginner, and how to publish, what steps you should take if you're one of the more advanced Kindle publishers and you've been doing this for a while. And also, what are the differences between publishing fiction versus nonfiction, and what you do to boost your book sales, no matter what genre you're publishing in. So take a look at it. It's kindlecashflow.com.
That's great. And of course, Facebook as well. So Ty, I just want to say big thank you. Great to catch up with you again. Thanks for being part of the Self-Publishing Summit. I've been looking forward to this. And thanks for giving us such great content. Some really juicy stuff you shared with us, which nobody else has mentioned on the summit. So great to have some of that cutting edge stuff. So big thank you for being part of the summit. Cheers, Ty.
I mean, we're coming to the end already, dude. I got another 3 hours I want to go.
Well, people are going to have to go check out kindlecashflow.com to get the next 3 hours.
Yeah. Hey, John, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you for inviting me. And the whole Kindle publishing, as sort of a closeout here, the whole publishing journey can be extremely fun. So if you're not already doing it, go ahead and get involved. And if you are already publishing, just go in and publish a few more titles. I think you'll be really pleased. And just keep in mind right now, just something to leave your viewers with. We find that over the last year and a half or so, buyers of Kindle books, they want to get the information. If it's nonfiction or if it's fiction, they want to go in and be entertained quickly. They want a quick read, and then they want to get out. They want something that they can read while they're at the airport, or while they're at, I don't know, soccer practice, or while they're waiting for the bus, or while they're on their coffee break, all right? So I say that to say your book does not have to be a 200-page, huge piece of literature. Okay, you can go in and publish 40 pages. You can go in and publish 30 pages. You can go in and publish 50 pages. The important thing is to get started. Stop thinking about it, okay, and go in and do it and create that momentum. Once you go in and create your first book, continue that process, and you should already have the idea for your second book. Publish your first book, go in, get it done. Don't obsess over it. All right, and then start publishing the next one. And just, it's all about the momentum. Once you get the momentum going, it becomes so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. Yeah.
Right.
Great. Well,
good one. I hope it's not raining out there in London.
No, it's actually pretty nice. We have some nice spring weather, which is good, because it certainly does rain here. More than enough. Yeah.
When I come over there.
So we're going to blame you. Well, Ty, thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch. But thanks for being part of the summit. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Cheers, Ty.